All right, let's get going on it. Looking to get through quite a lot today, so get your pads ready, get your cameras ready. But the idea is to basically look at what I can do as a strength and conditioning coach to sort of physically underpin each stage of the movement cycle. So that's the premise of this. So it's rather than just like running, going from cone to cone, moving all these different places, it's what physically and physiologically do we need to work on to improve our movement. So very much thinking strength-related type work. So that's me, Dominic King. I'm in the red on there with my brother. And so yeah, I've been enjoying tennis for a long, long time. So yeah, head of athlete development at Halton Tennis Centre over in the UK. Work with a whole range of athletes, all ages, all levels, all abilities. So what we're looking for, I say, is to better understand the role of strength and conditioning of S&C in improving the execution of the movement cycle. Now I had that image there as almost saying that this is the icing on the cake. So these are kind of very specific exercises for the stages of the cycle. It wants to be underpinned by general overall strength, mobility, all that other good stuff. So this is kind of just little specifics. So I think you need to make sure you've got the cake first before you then add the icing to it, all right? So just to review the cycle, understand and look at some of the kind of the key shapes and positions that we're looking for on the court, or that I'd be looking for on the court. We can look at some practical tools to observe and assess where there might be some stages that you might need to work on, and then look at sort of how we can, as I say, give some interventions to improve that and then move more effectively and efficiently on the court. So this is not the cap to Louis Caillet in terms of the movement cycle. So we're looking at having the start, the move, the hit, recover effectively. So you can have the start, which is incorporating the split step. So looking at kind of like either an even split or an uneven split. So split, even split, both feet together, uneven split, 1 foot landing first. Then you have the move out, whatever that might be, shuffle steps, crossover steps, run steps. Then you have the deceleration component of it. So you've got to slow down. Can't be a fast car without the brakes. Such an important part of moving, being balanced in position to hit. Then we've got the hit, the load rotate. Again, it could be in place, it could be with a little shuffle step, it could be with a crossover step, it could be with a, any kind of movement pattern in place, and then recover after it. Because preparation for the next shot begins with recovery from the previous shot. So we've got to make sure that we recover efficiently. That's essentially the same for your sessions. So preparation for your next session begins with recovery from your previous session. That's a little hint to get into the recovery sessions. And again, just throw this out there in terms of like movement zones. So we've got different zones, like how far they are, and what the impact on the body is for those areas. So when we're thinking of almost like a zone 1, it's a shorter distance, slower speeds, and less kind of force and impact on the body. So looking on there in terms of like a 2 to 3% body weight as you're moving, or 2 to 3 times body weight, I should say. Then you're going to zone 2, a little bit further, a little bit faster, because you've got to get there a little bit more force, therefore going to go in through the body. So we've got to be strong. We've got to be strong to tolerate these forces on the body. And then obviously you go out wider, quicker, got to control and decelerate out in those areas. Again, just some sort of movement norms that have been put together, so things that we just have an idea of. So how much ground can you cover from a lateral shuffle? How much ground can you cover from crossovers? How much ground can you cover from a hop? Where do they stack up? These are kind of at the elite level. But useful to kind of have as a bit of a benchmark. I think I've been outside watching today, and I think there's definitely can be more ground eaten up with the first steps, like kind of a bit kind of choppy. They can definitely be bigger to cover the ground. So we've got male and female kind of norms on here. So this is like a general question out there. We don't need to have answers from everyone, but it's in terms of like, where are the areas that you think, or you've been told, or you feel that you could improve in terms of that cycle? So if you're thinking of the start, the move, the decelerate, the hit, the recovery, like where are those areas? So as we go through some of the exercises, maybe you can sort of pick and choose some of the ones that might be useful to you. But it is important to maybe think about where that might be in terms of the areas, and we can test this out. And we won't necessarily need to test it out now, and I'm not going to do loads of sprints, but again, these are things that you can look at. So I say tests because they're not necessarily tests. You can time them if you like, but they can just be observations. So you can look at maybe just like either a 10-meter sprint or just a court width, And then we're going to look at your acceleration, how quick you are off the mark, just straight ahead speed. You can look at a 5 metre out and back, or if you're on a court, that's going to the centre line and back. So then it incorporates a change of direction, same distance, but a change of direction. And if there's a big difference in the times, there will be a difference, but if there's a big difference, then maybe that ability to stop, decelerate, change direction might need a little bit of work. A court width modified is going from sideline all the way across the other sideline, and then kind of pivot and then come back through the centre line. So again, slightly bigger distance, so hopefully building up some more speed to decelerate at a higher velocity, at a higher speed. So again, that could give us an indication of maybe it's the wider walls that are a challenge. And then we can go from sideline to centre line, how many kind of like time it, what's it looking like in terms of recovery positions, are you reorientating your body back to where you want to get to? A cone stack race I use quite a lot with some of the younger ones, so you just lay out cones on the lines, run out to it, pick it up, come back, stack it on, and you're just kind of looking at how the body is looking, what the deceleration is looking like, the change of directions. You can time it if you like, if you've got a certain number. The triple hop, really, really good. Simple, but really, really effective kind of observation. So you're just looking at kind of having a triple hop, so 1, 2, 3, and nailing the last one. So you're looking at how's that hip drive on the first one, what's the reactive strength like on the second one, and how's that deceleration on the third one. At the kind of elite level, we're looking at almost like if you do 3 times your height in terms of distance, that's all right. 3.5, looking good. 4 times is looking special, so you think, how far would that be? And it's a lot further than you kind of think. And then pogo's just in place, just bouncing. How's that looking on that contact? Is it reactive? Is it powerful? Are you getting height to it? We can measure that, but sometimes you don't need to, you just need to eyeball it. So those are ones that you can look at in terms of, okay, how am I looking on all of those things? If I'm doing it with a coach, what's the coach thinking? Am I looking quick off the mark? How's my change of direction, etc. So we've gone there, get fed up there, always one of the best movers, so get him in position. So looking at some of the shapes that we're looking at. The start, you're moving towards where you want to go. The foot, the ankle, it's the first thing in contact. It has to be strong. If it's like weak, you're not going to go anywhere. But you've got to be moving towards that direction of travel. So the body shape is going where? Always say, don't leave the body behind. It's like, whoop, leave the body behind. Take it with you. And so we've got things for this. So if you're on the warm-up this morning, the sprint warm-up we did, we're having that just like the 1, 2, 3 push, and then the bouncing, things like that. Anything that's getting that contact into the ground, that foot-ankle contact, is going to really help with that acceleration, that push away, that stiff ankle as you go. The pogos, like I just did, you can do it forwards, backwards, sideways, just anything that's getting that contact in, looking for height. You need to kick the toes up towards the sky, looking for height to it. We also want to think about when we're having to move, we first need to accept the forces down and absorb them. And with that, physically, in my mind, all the studies will tell you that it's looking at kind of hamstring muscles, especially semitendinosus muscle, the soleus, one of the calf muscles. So we want to do exercises that are going to work on that and your ability to accept the force down. So something like a snap down, where you're coming up and then coming down, and just literally just holding it, accepting it. You can do that with a kettlebell. You can come up there, boom. So just that ability to just hold that position, just land and accept that force, rather than sort of being like. So you can only kind of move if you first accepted the force down. Any kind of forward march, so if I have a band around someone and they're just kind of marching forward, boom, really getting that contact. You're only going to get out of the ground what you put into it. So if you're pushing off softly, you're not going to go anywhere. If you're pushing off powerfully, you're going to go. And then just talking about some of the strength exercises. If anyone's done an RDL before, really targets the hamstring muscles. So sideways on, dropping down, pulling up. It's going to really focus on that posterior chain. You can take that into a swing. So from here, up, and then loading through the hips and hamstrings. Again, just work on those muscles that we need to work physiologically to help move. I won't necessarily go through all of these, by the way. It's just like a little selection. And there's plenty more as well. If you have a box, you just step off and hold it. Obviously, that's quite a low box. We can go higher and higher and higher. It becomes harder to accept that force. You can step off it, then rebound up. So you're getting that quick contact. You'll only be able to go up if you've controlled it on the way down. You then come up and then push sideways. So again, we're kind of overloading that landing. And if it's not, you know, if it's not strong enough, that'll be tough to move away. Go easy on it though. Don't go crazy high. Just sort of start off and push. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then probably seen plenty of people on the tour having a band around them and then just sprinting, having some accelerations resisted. I'm trying to prevent Michael having to come out to demonstrate for everyone. So, does that make sense? If you've got someone resisting and just like having a sprint against the resistance. So if you have it with the resistance, take away the resistance. In theory, the body thinks you've still got the resistance, and then you'll fly. So that's a rapid kind of run through on those. What I also saw, I was just been outside this morning, and I don't know who was in the group I was with here, but I was just commenting a little bit on perhaps the relative lack of a split step going on. Whether that's fair or not, I don't know, but yeah, a few nods of recognition. So just there, kind of like, oh, I'm going to move. Again, that's going to be way harder, way less athletic to move from there. So if you have that split step, then you're boom, then you can go. Even split, but you're in a position to move. Uneven split, you can go. So one request I would maybe say when you go back out there this afternoon is to really look to nail those split steps. I'd just be really intrigued to know how you feel after that. If you just nail those split steps and move, I reckon you'll feel a massive, massive difference. All right. All good with those? Tina's off to practice her split steps. Sorry. So then we've got to decelerate. So once we've got there, we need to slow down. So that means if you're leaning towards where you want to go, once you're there, you've got to be more upright to decelerate. So the force, instead of going out there, has to go down. And I always say that doesn't matter if you're moving forward or sideways. At that point where you want to decelerate, it needs to be going down into the ground, or down into the ground. If you're going forwards, down into the ground, because then you'll stop. If you're not doing that effectively, you'll kind of be like, you'll keep going. That's my take on it anyway. So things are a little bit more upright. So you can see their fed's like loading and they're going to come through and hit. So then you look at deceleration as being the ability to hold that position with a nice upright posture. So almost just holding. So if you have a kettlebell coming forward, can you hold that position in an isometric? Hold that strength. This is going to be trying to pull me over. So I've got to try and hold that position. Similar kind of idea, you can have it with the kettlebell. The split's up here. How's my posture looking? Am I leaning? Am I holding? Am I absorbing that force? Hops and holds. Again, coming forward. We did it on the one, but just can you, as you land, can you hold it? Or is it kind of like, so as you land, trying to pull yourself down into the ground and nail the landing. Do that sideways as well. Down into the ground as you land. Again, ideally, we're sort of looking at maybe our height on one of those. You can go for lateral bound, so one leg to the other. A hop is same leg to same leg, so left to left. And then a bound is opposite. So you go further with the bound. You can then take that a little bit further. So if you've gone for the lateral bound, if you've absorbed it appropriately and you've controlled that deceleration, you can then go up. But you'll only be able to get up if you've effectively controlled on the lateral. And then instead of having the resisted, I've missed out the Viper, I haven't got a Viper, it's like a long cylindrical tube that you can tilt with it. If we've had the resisted speed for the acceleration, you can have almost like the assisted or the overspeed. So if I've got an athlete there and I'm pulling them towards me with the band after a split set, pull them towards me, there's more force than they're probably used to, so they have to work hard to decelerate. So it means like I'm being pulled towards here and I have to go, whoa! And I have to hold my position. The bottom two there, they're a little bit more kind of perception action, so a bit reactive to just challenge your ability to stop. So you can have someone sprint or move, give them a visual cue in some respect, and have to stop where they are. So you're putting like a time pressure, putting like a challenge to to it, which is a little bit less than the physiological, but can be in there as well. And then the ball bridge, like you have a ball and you roll it side to side, and they have to go there and almost like make a bridge for the ball to go through. By the way, I'm happy to go through any of these on court over the next couple of days with anyone if anyone wants to. So the load rotate, I think pretty much most people know about the load rotate. So again, anything where you're going to have the lower body and the upper body working together. So that can be load, rotate, load, rotate. That's just with a stick. You can do it with a medicine ball, a plate, anything else, just to have a little bit of extra work and a bit of extra weight to it. I'm a bit worried about this net. It doesn't look too stable. Yeah, it's not going to be. But kind of from here, you can almost have that. Where's that hold, that point of contact? And have that isometric, that static hold at contact. There's tension there. That can then go to rotation with it. I'm a bit worried that's going to pull. There's a strap there around the shoulders again, so you can have that load and rotate through. These are ones that for you probably look more tennis specific in terms of the physiology for the load and rotate. Hip airplane. For those of you who did the screening, if the hips are a little bit tight, you've got to get into the hips to load them. Whoa. Have that balancing lightly on top. And then from there you can just sort of rotate in through the hip. Keep a straight line from the chest to the stick. Come up. Loading in through the hip. Coming up, should really feel that corkscrewing around the hip from there. And then any of your standard med ball throws, which I'm sure you've done many, many times. But again, just work on that ability to come through with it, whether it's static, different movement patterns, shuffle step, hop, something that's going to challenge you to load and produce force against it. And then equally, you can have it like a bit the snap down, and then jump. So you can kind of come from here, rotate. So again, this force, down, rotate. You're going to have to move and have that rotation as you go. And then all of that is going to be underpinned with kind of general hip, thoracic spine mobility, which has come out, hopefully for some of you, in the things that we've done already in the Congress. And then any kind of stick pelvic rotation. So you've got to make sure we can disassociate lower body and upper body. So you're in this position. And can you rotate the hips as you go? So I'm absolutely flying through this because I appreciate time, and you all want to get back on court again. Oh, I might do a warm-up before we get back on, by the way, if anyone wants it. Right, so after you've hit, you've had the load, you've had the rotate, whatever shot you've done, whether it's been in position, pivot, rotate, whatever it might have been, now what do you do afterwards? And you have to be kind of going back to where you want to come from, like moving towards the idea of what's next. Because if you're here and you're playing the shot and you're still coming here, you're leaving an awful lot of court behind you. So that ability to kind of, wherever it is, be there and like, okay, I'm already coming back towards my position. So any kind of, oh, I didn't bring a bid medicine ball in. So any kind of like, just to sway side to side. It's like, can you go one way and then look to come back the other way? This is quite low, but can you have a ball and rotate it across? Can you go into a lateral lunge into a step over lunge? So can you get out to, see here, and then push to go back towards where you want to go? So if you've come out of that recovery and you've come through, you need to be able to push and come back over. So again, you can have a load with that. Have a weight. Come here, boom, come back. Something that if you're in the gym, you can have a bar, have a weight, whatever. Any kind of lateral hop, so you can get some cones out, just have a lateral hop, and then push. And hopefully you kind of see as you go, I'm not too upright because I want to make sure my foot's outside my center of mass to then push back in. Because I have to be going back towards what is next, what's coming next. And again, you can have those recoveries with a band either resisting it or assisting it. You can just play around with it. Incorporate the med balls. So have the med ball and then have the recovery after it. Have someone to throw against if you've got someone. I'll show you the med ball and cone touch on the court. And then just thinking, once you've had the recovery, so you've kind of come through, I'm always doing a shuffle step, but you've come through, you've had the recovery back towards where you are, there may be the possibility or the option or the requirement to then just be balanced in position again. There may not be. Depends where the ball's going, depends where you've hit it, depends where the opponent's hitting it. You may just have to hustle to the other side again. But there may be a position where you're kind of there and then back in. So you've got to have a nice sort of triangle. You've got to have a nice wide base. I think I said that this morning as well. A few too many people being quite upright today. Get down to that athletic base. The hips are tight. You need to work on that because you need to be able to get back into it. And if the hips are tight, you'll be like, oh, can't do that. And then it's kind of like a push-push. It's like push, push as you go. So really kind of push the ground away. And that kind of gets a little bit more just generic, a little bit more basic. So just general leg strength will be great with that one. The ability to squat, the ability to kind of hold squats will build up the leg strength and you'll feel comfortable in that position. If the leg strength isn't there, you won't feel comfortable in that position. Again, any kind of hinge or RDL that we've done, because after you've hit the shot, you've got to be on like here, from the hips, not from the back. Nice athletic position. General hip mobility. A glute side step. If you have a band. Easy bands to put on. And just be here and just have a little bit of a step. So again, just keep that nice. That'll be working you, holding that base. Any kind of lateral kind of pillar strength, side planks, Palloff presses, when this is strong, so as you're moving it doesn't fold, you're keeping a nice stable base. All of these things are going to help with that particular aspect of the movement cycle. And then again, you had the resisted acceleration. You could have it resisted lateral push, but holding that position the whole time. Again, if you were there in the warm-up this morning, I was stressing that with the lateral shuffle we had across the court. Just keep that height. Almost feel like there's a laser up here and you don't want to kind of come up into the laser, you've got to keep underneath it. I always say there's a question mark in terms of who's doing it. So it's like, is it the coach? Is it the S&C coach? It doesn't really matter. You know, if the S&C coach was comfortable with it, great. If the coach was comfortable with it, great. It's got to be woven in. It's always got to be interdisciplinary. Anything I do, and I've stressed this a lot over the course of the last few days, everything I do is about making it better on the court for you. Like, my job is to allow the coach to do their job more effectively with you. It's to allow you to be better on the court, whatever that might mean. So yeah, it doesn't really matter that sometimes like, oh no, that's that person's job. That's just, you know, fight, get it done. So we've hopefully whizzed through it. I've got no idea on time. Oh, that's all right, loads of time. Whizzed through it, so we've looked at the movement cycle. The start, move, hit, recover, whatever that might encompass in terms of uneven split, even split, crossover steps, shuffle, lateral shuffle, any kind of different pattern on the shot, and then the recovery afterwards. Kind of trying to look at what we're looking for in terms of body position. So if I come out, am I seeing a movement towards the ball? Am I seeing a nice upper body position on the deceleration? Am I seeing a good hip-shoulder separation on the rotation? Am I seeing a good body position on the recovery? And then when I come back, am I seeing a nice athletic triangle to hold your position? So I'll be seeing those things on the court. A few norms in terms of distance covered. Some simple, I say simple, you know, just because they're relatively easy to carry out. Not to say that they're not, you know, that they're easy, because if you go at them, they're quite challenging, but they're relatively simple to carry out and gives you an idea of where you might need to focus some energies and some attention. And then some exercises to help with each stage and thinking about how they can be relevant and specific back to that area of the movement cycle. That was double quick time. So I hope that was, I just like threw it all at you. I decided not to get anyone to demonstrate, so I hope you're okay with my demonstrations. But as I say, we can go through, we can build some of these in onto the court if we want to over the next couple of days. More than happy to do that, to look at some of those things. But yeah, so thank you for coming, thank you for listening.